what's up? You alright? Day 3, isn't it? Day 3 of the 1K main event, big tournament, 300,000 euros up top. Got 40 big blinds. Gonna try and win, obviously. Day 2 went pretty well. Obviously, it was pretty smooth sailing yesterday. We played 8 levels. We started the day with about 250,000 chips. We finished the day on 1.58 million. As of right now, we've got 5,500 euro locked up, but serious money up top, 300K. So one level at a time today, and we'll see where we end up. 6. Morning, Jamie. Thank you. Thank you. I'm on tilt already. Straight into the big blind. Maybe I get a walk.
All right, sports fans, we're off. We are day 3 of the 1K FPS main event and sitting with about 1.3 million chips. Around 50 players remain. 300,000 some euros up top. We're playing for a lot of money. And on the button here, we have ace 7 of hearts. Our opponent in the cutoff is going to open to 80,000. And with a hand that's not quite good enough, or certainly not good enough to 3-bet and play for stacks, but too strong to 3-bet fold, we are going to call 80,000 chips pre-flop with the benefit of position. Of course, we've got to hope that the small blind or the big blind squeezes us out and denies us our opportunity. And the big blind folds as well. We are heads up to a flop. The flop comes down. King 8 deuce with 1 heart and 2 spades. It's not such a bad flop for us. We are going to flat a lot of King X on the button. A lot of suited kings. Some offsuit kings around King 10, King Jack, King Queen. Again, all these hands that are too good to 3-bet get in. Sorry, not good enough to 3-betting, but too good to 3-bet fold. So we have plenty of kings with which to value bet here. Meaning that I think in general, our opponent is going to have to play a very high frequency check as the out of position player, which in turn is going to lead us to do a lot of betting once we get checked to. Our opponent does check, as we might expect, the majority of the time. I think we could go either way. I wouldn't hate a check with this hand. I think if we have a7 without the backdoor, we might be happier just to bet and try and take the pot right here. But you could potentially mix this with a check. I think betting's going to be fine, so we do bet. We go for 90,000. I think we'll also benefit in a live 1K tournament from our opponent not check raising as much as they're supposed to, perhaps. However, as I'm thinking these thoughts and quite happy with my bet and denying equity, we do indeed get check raised. And we get check raised to 240,000. I don't think that my hand is going to be quite strong enough to continue even with the backdoor flush draw, even with the ace. And given that we have plenty of King X, we are going to fold this one and lose a small pot to the player to my right. We're in the cutoff now. Pocket jacks. Premium hand early in the day. You absolutely love to see it. Blinds at 20k, 40k. We're going to make it 85,000 to go, just greater than a min raise. But my goodness me. Everybody folding like a laptop. Our only hope for action is the big blind, who quickly releases. And whilst we do scoop a pot, obviously disappointing not to get more action here. With pocket jiggities, shout out to Brad Owen, the true OG poker vlogger.
Table change. Reasonable start. Won a few, lost a few, chilling. I don't know where table 2 is. Bonjour, ça va? This is an awfully nice table, isn't it? Oh, should have had a walk, shouldn't I? Wish I was a morally unscrupulous individual. Gone for a little stretch of the legs. No.
Okay, so we've been moved to this new table. One of the first hands we jammed against Jason Wheeler, who opened on the button. We reshoved ace-jack suited. We come to this table with the blinds at 25k, 50k, and we have around 1.2, 1.3 million still. Playing in the big blind here for 50,000 with a 50,000 big blind ante. We're going to look down at King Jack with 1 heart, 1 spade. This is a really interesting hand. I think a really impactful hand for our tournament as well. We have an open from under the gun, and we have a call. Okay, so what you see there is the player flashed a 7. This is kind of really interesting because a 7 was exposed pre-flop. And then this player, who's an older gentleman, said, well, look, I had a 7. And then shows it mid-hand, which is obviously not really what you want to do. Because whilst the game has been impacted by the exposure of the 7, it's now been impacted further by this guy saying, look, I had a 7. So we now have 2 exposed 7s before this hand has really been played. Undeterred, the cutoff is going to call pre-flop, and we're going to come along with our King Jack O in the big blind for 110,000. It's going to be pretty hard for anyone to rep a 7-7x flop given what we've just seen. But the 7s turn out to be not that relevant as the flop comes down King 10-4 with 2 clubs and 1 diamond. We flop top pair, which we're fairly happy about, of course. And our opponent under the gun bets out 150,000 into 2 players, which is quite the show of strength. Obviously in a situation where they're going to have a lot of strong hands. Aces, ace king, king queen, pocket 10s, king 10, pocket 4s, and some big draws as well. Ace X of clubs, ace queen of clubs, maybe ace jack with some backdoor diamonds, things like this. Obviously, we're not going anywhere on the flop with our top pair. We're going to call 150,000. And it's at this point, really, where things start to get interesting. This is a player who there was a pot previously where he bet ace high on 6-6-4, got jammed on for like 3 more big blinds by the big blind, and then went into the time bank for about a full minute and had the clock called on him because he didn't want to put the rest of 3 big blinds in with ace high. And just before the turn card, he leans around to me, asks me if I speak French. I say, oui, monsieur, un peu. He asks me how much I have behind. I say about 1 million. And upon receipt of my answer, he immediately fires again on the turn, which is the 3 of diamonds. He immediately fires 340,000. And very intimidated at this point by the fact that he's asked me how many chips I have behind, as if he's sizing me up for a bet, rip all in at the river. Like, he really feels the opposite of what he felt on the other hand. This time, he feels like the most confident man on the French Riviera. And so I started going to the time bank. Because, realistically, I don't anticipate him having much worse of value here. I don't think he's value betting king 9. I think he's going to at least slow down with a check of these, sometimes on the flop, sometimes on the turn. So I think his value range is aces, king and an ace, king and a queen, king 10, pocket 4s, pocket 10s. And then very occasionally, maybe he's bluffing like queen jack, but I have a jack. Maybe he's bluffing like ace queen of clubs or ace queen of diamonds, but this is about 2 combinations compared to a wild amount of combinations of better hands that he's going to have. And at this stage of the tournament, this did not really strike me as a player that is going to double or triple barrel off his tournament life, given his reluctance to put in the rest of the chips with ace high in the previous spot. So I'd almost rather call here with a hand like king 6, because I don't think my kicker is that relevant. I don't think we outkick any of his value around the king X. So I just kind of want to unblock queen jack or ace jack more if it's going to be close. So against a player who I didn't think was really going to bluff, I ummed and ahed, and genuinely, I then considered that, well, I don't block any clubs, I don't block any diamonds, maybe he has like too many nut flush draws, maybe I should jam with my suits. I do think on a different day, this hand could have ended very differently. It could have ended with all my chips in the middle. But all things considered, eventually we settle on the opposite. We settle on fold, and I throw away king jack here. With a little bit of chatter afterwards, he remarked about these 7s being folded and said about he didn't want to play the hand, but he had to. He had such a big hand. I asked him if he had king queen, or someone asked him if he had king queen. He says better than king queen. So I'm hoping that we made a good laydown here. I'm pretty confident that we did, but obviously it is a big fold here on day 3. We now find ourselves on the button, and you'll see an all-in triangle fly in front of me. We have ace deuce suited. Pretty interesting spot here. We decide just to open rip for just less than 1 million. Pretty sure in game that our 20 big blind open rips should be like ace deuce suited through ace 5 suited, deuces through 6s, jack 10 suited, queen 10 suited, ace 7, ace 8 off, something like this, so we have good coverage. I wasn't sure in this field whether I could just like raise fold if people weren't going to rejam against me wide enough. I could just, you know, get away from the cooler more. But I think this is fine. I think this is actually probably the best way to play. Camera doesn't agree as it falls into a pit of a void. But we're all in. We don't get called. 20 big blind, open rip on the button, gets it through. So blinds are up at this point. We're playing 30k, 60k. Fear not, my stack isn't quite as low as you might think. Just in between those yellows there, you'll see a glimpse of the 100,000k black chip that's now in play. We look down at ace jack, and we have again about 1 million chips. There's that 100k black chip. We decide to open to 120. Think we definitely still, of course, want to play a lot of raises at this stack depth. We are just sub 20 big blinds, probably about 18 big blinds deep now. However, having raised ace jack offsuit, player in the cutoff decides to shove all in, covering us. I think this is a pretty trivial fold. I don't imagine that our opponent, who hadn't really been playing too many hands, is going to be coming after us too aggressively here. I think calling our face jack offsuit when we have so many strong hands and a pretty narrow range under the gun at this stack depth is going to be a big mistake, and we will let it go. We're going to stick with this clip though because we are about to be dumped into the big blind. There goes 60,000. There goes another 60,000. It's pretty expensive playing poker at this table right now. So it folds to Jason on the button. He's going to open to 120,000. We have king deuce offsuit. I'm not really sure about this hand. I don't want the fold king high, I don't think. Even at this stage of the tournament, I think we still want to make a defend here. We have played a couple of reshoves against Jason. I'm quite cognizant of the fact that he might be opening a little bit tighter on the button, but I don't think egregiously tight. So we defend our king deuce offsuit. And at this stack depth, we're really just looking to make, you know, top pairs and try and steer towards showdown. Unfortunately for us, just after we raise fold the ace jack, we're going to see a flop here that is queen 6-8 with two hearts, which couldn't really be any further away from where we want to be. Jason's going to go ahead and continuation bet for 100,000. And of course, we are going to fold. It's going to leave us down to about 800,000 chips at big blind 60,000.
Hello. Hello. Hello, the vlog. We're on the first break of the day. We played 2 hours. Started with 1.5 million today, down to 1.1. Production's just jab him in the head with an umbrella. It's gone okay. It's not gone great. I've won some pots, lost some pots. I made a big fold. I folded king jack on king 10 3 deuce to the world's most confident man, who previously seemed quite tight in a few spots. We're going back now to 30,000, 60,000. I have 1.1 million, so we're just nearly 1.2, so nearly 20 big blinds. With 34 left, 31 is a page jump to 6,880. As of right now, we have about 5.8 locked up. So not really the payout situation that we want to be in. Obviously, a lot of money up top, so hopefully that 20 big blinds can stay in there or even find a double. We'll see.
And at this point of the tournament, we've been getting dealt out quite a bit. So as you can see, our stack has continued to dwindle a little. We're around 700,000 chips with the blinds
30, I want to say.
at 30-60. We decide to make our move with a premium hand. It's ace-king. Of course, we're just going to shove ace-king offsuit. We're all in. We're searching for a double up. We're looking to play for it all. We are now down, I believe, to the final three-table situation. 300,000 euros up top. We're begging for action, but we're begging to hold or get there or whatever needs to be done to get done. Player to our immediate left asks for a count, which is a pretty good sign when we have a hand as strong as we do. We do get a call. He decides to just flat. Everybody else folds, and we're delighted to table our ace-king. Our opponent tables ace-10 offsuit. We dominate, and we're looking good for a double up at the business end of the tournament. The flop is going to run out safely for us. 2 cards to come, 2 cards to sweat. The turn is a brick, and the river bricks off again. We find a much-needed double up. As you can see, there's about 650,000 chips in the middle. So we're going to double back up more than with the blinds and the antes to around 1.4 million deep in this event.
It would have been quite villainous. Double back up, 22 big blinds. All in, ace-king, ace-10, we hold. Game on.
So as the battle rages on and blinds continue to be played, you'll find us here with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, about 1.2 million in chips. The blinds are 40k, 80k, and JD's world is very short. He lost a very large, unfortunate flip. That's Jason there lining up his chips. He's going to be all in for about 225,000, which of course is about 3 big blinds. We look down at a6 offsuit on the button, just 2 players to go. I imagine he's jamming really wide in this spot, of course. We're happy with all the dead money from the blinds to reshove our hand. And after the blinds get out of the way, Jason's going to table Jack 3 suited. He's looking for a spin back into the game. There's my a6 off. We wish him the best of luck. We don't mean a damn word of it. Pretty important part, even though it's just his 3 big blinds. Obviously, we've got big blind, small blind. We've got the big blind ante. But disastrous strikes on the flop. Jason catches his Jack. And a 3.
Good enough.
The river is another 3. Jason makes a full house, and we're going to have to cut some chips out of the stack. We toss him 225, and it's going to leave us even shorter than we were before. And now we ourselves are looking for a much-needed double up.
Jason jammed 3 blinds with Jack 3 suited. I put in a 6-0. He makes a full house with Jack 3. It's an important pot, right? It's like 6 blinds. Now the blinds went up 40k, 80k. I have 1.1 million, so I have like 13 bigs, but would have been nice to hold. We're down to 26, which means we're redrawing the final 3 tables. We got 7,700 locked up. Pay jump at 23, so one more elimination to like 8.8. But we need to spin. We got 13 bigs, but we did double up ace king versus ace 10, but we need to double up again there. Excuse me, is this table 1? Yeah, table 1, right?
Yep, table 1, yeah.
1,075,000 chips. 40,000, 80,000 big blinds. You do the maths. 30 bigs, 40 bigs, something like that.
So this is after the reshuffle to the brand new table. We got rebalanced at 24, 3 tables left. We join with around 1 million chips, and the blinds are at 40k, 80k. We pick up 8-5 of clubs, 8-5 suited in the big blind, which is, again, is a pretty reasonable hand. It can do some nice things. We would be quite happy to try and see a flop, be it for a min raise from the button. Obviously, if our opponent in the small blind, we expect them to play limp, fold, or jam. So we're quite happy when they limp. I think this sort of middling suited hand is one that doesn't want to ISO. We're going to ISO our strongest hands. We're going to ISO our weakest hands. But when you have a hand that can do something, can make a straight, can make a flush, it's going to be able to continue on some boards. I think we are. Look how excited I am about being able to make a straight flush. I knock the camera over in delight. We reset. We regain our composure. Been talking to the opponent to my right. Definitely a studied player, a regular. Said that he liked the vlogs, which is nice. Thank you very much. If you're watching this right now, we're about to play a hand together. The flop is 9-6-5, which is exactly the sort of thing what we're looking for. It really dings this middling part of the range that we're most likely to check. I think with the straight draw and the bottom pair, we could go either way. I decided to check back. The turn is a queen, which of course is going to improve our opponent sometimes, but it's not going to improve us as well some of the time. Probably slightly better for them, given that I raised some of my strongest queens and maybe ISO some of my weakest queens pre-flop. But of course, with this straight draw, the whole point of us checking back on the flop is because we can just call every turn with sometimes the best hand, and if not, ways to improve. So when our opponent slides out 1 big blind, we're pretty happy to call in position. So we piece out 80,000, and we're headed to a river. With an intention of, well, improving to a straight would be nice, but with the intention of sometimes calling bets, hopefully check. When our opponent's checks, here at this river card, which is a repeat queen. It's another queen. We're very happy that our hand has adequate showdown value. And it's gonna drag the pot, I would say, the majority of the time. So I table the 8-5 of clubs. My opponent tables a very strong hand, 9-7, looking to bluff catch on the river. We did not need to bluff, but unfortunately, we lose a little blind v blind encounter here with a slightly better second best hand, and we're put into the small blind with about 10 BBs left.
Give our friend the double. Oh, hello, sir. How are you doing? Looks like you're doing pretty well.
He's about to double me up. Very kind of him.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Love this guy.
So after another round of blinds being dealt out, obviously a lot of people raising, us not being able to find any rejams, we're incredibly short now. We have 535,000 chips with the big blind at 80,000. So not even 8 big blinds. We have about 7.5 big blinds here, which makes this hand really interesting. Our opponent opens to 160, and we look down at ace-5 of diamonds. It's a really intriguing hand. I almost feel like we don't want to shove versus the under the gun open, but then I also feel like we don't want to call. And I'm very understudied in this spot, but there is a lot of study and theory that does calling off sub 10 BB stacks, even from the small blind situations potentially like this. I think ace-5 suited is an okay candidate with which to peel rather than shove and rather than fold, but it could be close given that we're on the final 3 tables. The truth is, I'm not sure. I don't think I hate calling. So we decide to call. The flop is ace-6 deuce with 2 clubs, and obviously at this point, we have, 5 big blinds behind? So when my opponent commits 225 to the flop, at this point, we've just got to go with our hand. We flop top pair. We're very shallow. We're ready to rock and roll. I'm delighted that my opponent doesn't snap, kind of rolls his eyes a little bit. Nice. Puts it in. Ace-5, tables pocket 9s. And our peel from the small blind at the moment looks like it's going to pay dividends, and we're going to find a double up off the short stack. The board runs out, brick, and we're up to 1.4 million at 40.80, and that is certainly a route back into this game with just 25 players remaining. And having just found that double up, as I say, we're back in the game a little bit. We've got just shy of 1.6 million chips, playing 40k, 80k, so we've got just shy of 20 big blinds, which at this stage of the tournament is a very, very playable stack. We look down the big blind, very uninspiring jack deuce suited. We're ready to be done with the hand, of course. Maybe we defend if the button raises. The button in this instance was actually a very, very short stack player. There are several stacks shorter than my own at this point. There was a pay jump at 20th place to around 10,000 euro. At the moment, everyone has 8,800 euro locked up, and there are 21 players remaining. And with the jack deuce suited, our opponent, once again, much like they did when we had the 8-5 of clubs, our opponent is going to limp. So I think if we have jack deuce offsuit here, if you've watched my previous vlog, you'll see me ISO a hand like this in the big blind versus the limp. I think jack deuce suited is a little bit more playable. When we're in the suited portion of the tree, I think we're just far more likely, far happier to see flops. There's going to be more boards that we can float and continue on, and more equities that we can flop. So we're less incentivized to win the pot pre-flop. So when our opponent limps this time, we check jack deuce suited, and we're heads up at 40k, 80k. Flop's going to come down 10-4 deuce with 2 clubs, which we're not unhappy about. Obviously, we catch a pair. We're going to take the lead a lot of the time. Our opponent checks. And whilst our hand could benefit from some protection here, I think we can also just check back and take it closer to showdown, which is what we decide to do. The turn is gin. We turn a jack, 2 pairs, blind versus blind, limp pot, just less than 20 bigs. And of course, with the 80k from the small blind, the 80k from my big blind, and the 80k ante, we're playing 240,000 chips in the middle. My opponent decides that they want to bet this turn, which I'm immediately delighted about, of course. I've turned a very, very strong hand blind v blind. And they slide out 160,000, which is quite a sizable bet. I do think they're going to be limping and trapping, even as high up as aces, kings, queens, jacks, tens. Obviously, jacks or tens would be a disaster. The overpairs would be very good. I think they're also going to have a lot of jacks here. Maybe they limp some of the middling jacks. Maybe they limp to trap some of the stronger jacks. And maybe even, given how they played the 9, when they value bet the 9 on the turn in the previous blind v blind encounter, maybe they check a 10 sometimes and they're value betting a 10. Or they have a hand like king queen or queen 9. Or maybe they limp trap some ace king, ace queen in the suited portion of their range. So we decide to raise on the turn. We're looking to draw value from the weaker jacks, the draws. If they did check some sort of flush draw on the flop or turn some sort of straight draw and bet it, then we're going to try and get some chips in the middle against that. We make it 480,000 to go on the turn. Obviously, with not too much behind, we're really rooting for our opponent to be all in. And at this point, we're in great anticipation of having just doubled up, winning another pot, or potentially, if things go the right way, finding another double up. After some moments in the tank, my opponent decides, piecing out their chips, that they do indeed want to play for it all. They go all in. We call, and there's the bad news. It's a super cooler. Pocket tens. They limped blind v blind off the 19, 20 big blind stack. They flop top set. We turn 2 pair. And we're drawing to a couple of jacks at the river, which of course did not come. And just like that, our deep run in the 1K FPS main event comes to an end. Thank you.
Sad, isn't it? Adds such a good hand too. Feel the double up incoming. He just has this like crazy hand to have, really. Crazy hand to have. Game over. Blind v blind. 18 blind steep. Limps. Check jack deuce suited. 10-5 deuce, 2-tone. Check, check. Turns the jack. Bets big. He bets like 140. I make it 440 with like 700 back, 800 back. All in, call, it's pocket tens. And bubbled the pay jump. 20 was like 10.8. 21st was 8.8. But what can you do? Like, thought we were doubling up, mate. That's what I thought, obviously.
It's alright, buddy. You'll be fine.
Let's go reg the 2K, guys. Yeah, if this video gets 5,000 likes, I might make another vlog, but it's probably not going to happen, is it? Let's freaking go, guys. Smash like. Come on, guys. I'll win the next one, I promise.
One party goer right here in Monte Carlo.
When it click, click through to the system, it's possible.